Welcome back to Code with Kamira, and today we are going to look at interceptors. We shall create two files, one that is TokenInterceptor and another one that is LoggerInterceptor, with the intention of intercepting our requests, response, and the error messages. All right, we can start. Let's create a LoggerInterceptor. Create a class. We call it LoggerInterceptor. LoggerInterceptor. All this happens in the network, so we just maintain it in the retrofit. So it's a class LoggerInterceptor. And what makes it an interceptor is when it extends interceptor. Okay, so this definitely has a constructor LoggerInterceptor. And now we need to override certain methods that are in the super. And our interest is going to be in on request. On request. Then on error. All right, so now we start with on request. We have request options and then the request interceptor handler, debug print. So we are going to debug print some information. For example, the method that is being sent, we say method, and the method is from options dot, do we have method? Yes. Okay, let's do the same. Let's copy. So what else do we need to intercept? On request, we need to see which path or which URL. So path is going to be dot path, and then method, we have method path, and I think the data request data, and this request data can be options.data. We have URL and path. Let's log even this so that will give us the complete URL. So here it means we are intercepting and we get what we want. So we can say handler dot next, and we say options. We intercept now the response. I think even the response we can intercept the same. So we say response method is going to be response dot request options dot method response path is going to be response dot request options dot path Then response URL is going to be response dot request options dot URL. Then response data is going to be response dot data. So we can as well get the whole header on request header, because the reason for intercepting your requests may vary depending on what you want. So someone might say, I want to see the whole header, and that is that. Now we can also intercept the error. So for the error, what do we need? Okay, still here we can say handler dot next. On error, we may need the method, so we can say debug print. And the reason for using debugger print is because we want these prints to be made, or logs to be made only in debug mode, but in release not, because it is actually not even necessary. It is intended to facilitate debugging. So we can look for the method. We call it error method, or method on error, and that should be error. We check what is on error. Error, it has a request option. It has a lot: the message, the response, status code. So you look for many, but then we'll want to know which method is failing. So method would copy this. Now after the method, we can have error path, the path that is giving us the error path, and that's path. Then we copy paste. We can still be interested in, if you have the method, we have the path, we may be interested in the status code, maybe the real error response anyway. Error response. These are used to facilitate debugging in case of any issue. So on error, then we have response. Okay. Now, there are decisions to make here. Some additional decisions that can be made. We can make some decisions on error. Sometimes you find that you have a requirement that you log out a user when you get a status code of 401, 403, and maybe 402. How do you do that to log out someone? So you need to know the status code, final status code equals. So the status code here, we can get it from error dot response dot status code. Okay, it can be null. We say if status code equals to 401 or status code equals 402 or status code equals 403, we want to log out a user. Log out the user if it is a requirement. Final path equals to error dot request options dot path, and we need to say here everything that is done here should consider the fact that the path is not in the register, path is not in the login, and maybe others that apply. And path dot contains, so for this case our login path is auth login. Okay, we want to do something. We put all this in one, then and we put this in another. So this means that any of these conditions must check for this. But we are saying if that happens and the path contains this equals true, but we need to negate because it should be equals to false. Or we can just say equals to false. Let's do this. We negate this path, meaning that if we are on the login page and any of this happens, you don't need to log out. You already logged out. If you're on the register page, now that we don't have register, but assuming we have it, we copy this. It's an O. And we could say register. Okay. So this, where is the issue now? Is considering this. Okay. Handler dot next, and that is the error. Okay. So we've done our logger interceptor. Let's link it to our Dio in the API service class. So we have the Dio here, and we can say Dio dot interceptor dot add. We called it logger interceptor. Okay, so we've linked. Now we need to create a token interceptor. that is logger, because on some requests you may need a token and others you don't need a token, like a register or sign up. We usually don't require a token. We create token interceptor class token interceptor. It extends interceptor constructor that we override on request, because to pass the token is on request. So now here, depending on whether you have a token or not. So let's say final token equals get the token from where it is saved on login. Testing token. And this, we expect that it can be null. So we say string token that can be null. Okay. So we say if token is equal to null, no, if token is not equal to null, that means we have a token already. So, and this means that a user has already logged in. So we get our options dot header, and now the header is what we pass. So we realize that the header, depending on what the backend expects, usually it is authorization, and then the value is to be a bearer, and then the token. So here we've said for those requests that are performed when a user has logged in, we pass authorization in the header. Depending on what the backend is expecting from you, you pass your header from here. Do not copy paste, but based on the requirement of your product and know what to do. Also, just a reminder, whatever we do in this course, I would prefer you don't copy paste into your project, but you utilize other options. You create bugs. The best way you learn is when you create bugs, when you test and say, okay, what happens if I do this? What happens if I don't do it like he has done? We can say handler dot next options. Finally, let's connect this to the API service. So Dio dot interceptors dot add token interceptor. All right, so we've already connected the interceptors to our Dio. Thank you for watching Code with Kamira. Bye.